Welcome back to Friday Night. A couple of weeks ago, we showed you what it was like to take off in a space shuttle. Well, tonight, Commander Weatherby takes us for a tour of the inside to see how the astronauts live in space. Well, Jim, thanks for having me back.
Welcome back.
In fact, this is the exact spot we had our first interview about 3 years ago.
Right. That's right.
And the transformation of this place is amazing.
Yeah, a lot has happened since then, both in space and here in this building.
An exciting time to be part of the program, I imagine.
It really is. We're building the International Space Station now. It's already under construction. Things are going well. The first crew is living on board right now, Bill Shepard and the crew. And they're activating all the systems and getting ready for us to go back and bring them back to the Earth.
And you're training to command a mission that's going to go up there in February?
Right, we go in February, we bring them back, rescue them, and we take the Expedition 2 crew up, and we will have permanent human presence in space on the space station from now until the space station's life is ended many years down the road.
About what are you projecting, about 5?
It's designed to be 10, but really when you make those designs, you hope that you did a good job and you can make it last for 15, 20. Certainly the Mir's been up for a long time now, 15 years, and it was designed for a shorter period of time.
And this is a simulation of one of the shuttles that you're going to be taking up for your mission.
Right.
Home away from home.
Right.
Shall we check it out?
Sure. The first thing I noticed when I saw it, by the way, is how big it is. And it's a little bit daunting to realize that I have to control something this big, flying little airplanes in the past. But you'll notice when you get inside how small it is.
Okay.
And so we'll see, it'll be kind of shocking how little space we actually have up in space.
Well, you are the commander, so after you.
Okay.
Okay. No close-ups. This is the cockpit, but basically it's also your living quarters.
Right.
So what's it like living with 6 of your closest friends in this confined space?
Well, and you picked up on the important point. The first thing you notice here is it is pretty small. But the interesting thing to remember is that when we leave Earth and we're up in space, you can actually use the third dimension. So if we had 6 people here and you were in my way and I wanted to get over here, I wouldn't have to knock you aside. I could say, excuse me, and I could float over the top of you, or you could do the same to me. And so all of a sudden it seems bigger just because there's no gravity. In fact, when I sleep, as the commander, I always want to be close to the controls if something happens to the vehicle. And I sleep, I'll say lying down, but you're not really lying down, right along the floor here, stretched out. And the only thing I have is a little bungee system connected to the floor.
I was going to ask, okay, how do you strap yourself in? I did notice cots down below that are sort of attached to the wall.
Right.
But you prefer to sleep up here?
I like to sleep with just a little bungee that keeps me on the floor and keeps me from floating around and hitting any of the switches.
You seem like a pretty even-tempered guy, though. Do tempers flare when you guys are confined in this small space together? We're
starting to look at that kind of a thing. It's another important point that we have to think about for the long-duration missions. It's not so bad on the short-duration missions, although, of course, you try to be professional about it. But on the longer-duration missions, we think psychologically you need to have your own personal space that you can go away and get away from it all for a short period of time and do some enjoyment things, read some books or whatever, or look out the window.
Right.
So those are the kinds of things we're looking at.
Now show us where the kitchen is. And
kitchen will be over on this side, which unfortunately I see in this mock-up they don't have it installed. We'll float on over this way, and normally it's right here, and there's an oven with a fan that blows hot air on the food.
Seriously, that's how you heat it up?
Yeah. The other way that we can heat the food is to simply hydrate it with hot water. We have 2 water ports, one for cold water, one for hot water. But there are other little tricks that astronauts learn. If the hot water isn't hot enough, you can just mount the drink container or the vegetables, which are encased in plastic, mount it next to one of the hot computers around here and just let it sit there for a while. And then you're using the energy from the computer to heat the water. On the other hand, if the drink isn't cold enough, you can mount it next to one of the exhaust fans that's blowing the cold air into the cabin. It's like a refrigerator, and it keeps it nice and cool.
Is it mostly dehydrated food?
Most of it is. We do that to save weight and volume going uphill.
Is someone up in the cockpit at all times?
Not always.
Okay.
We do have computers that will enunciate different failures if there are failures. If it's a critical phase of flight, like in the rendezvous part coming up to the space station, then we're of course always on the flight deck.
Well, Jim, you mentioned upstairs that some of the crew members will be sitting down here for re-entry.
Right.
They're staring at this. They're
Right.
sitting here.
Right. For launch, the three crew members will be in seats that are mounted on the floor here, and these red covers, and all they can see is these lockers right here. Which, of course, you have to make sure the lockers are all locked so the contents don't come out, because we're accelerating in that direction, which means everything's coming this way.
Oh, I can't imagine traveling at that force, at that speed, and not being able to have windows around to look out and make sure you're in a safe position.
Yeah, it can be psychologically a little bit difficult.
You've never had to experience that, have you, Jim?
No, I wouldn't want to go anywhere without windows.
Oh, man. Well, before we go check out the payload, if you don't mind, I have to use the restroom.
Okay, well, that'd be good, because you may be out in space for about 6 hours, so you do have to do that.
I better go.
Okay, here's the door, and then you just pull this privacy curtain over.
Please.
Attach it here.
I'll be right back. Jim, that wasn't easy.
Well, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. You're right.
It's the first time I've had trouble since I was like 2. All right.
You know, of course, what these are, right?
To hold you down.
Handles, right?
Okay.
Right. Little footsteps down there.
All right. All right, enough potty talk. Let's go.
All right.
So on a mission, you'd have the luxury of floating through
Yes, and it's a lot
modules,
more
right?
comfortable, of course. You
and
can
graceful.
either feet first or head first, either one.
Which one do you like better?
I go feet first. It feels more like we're falling into a hole, into a big well. And it's kind of fun to experience any kind of weird sensations up in space. This is the airlock where the crew members who are doing the spacewalks will put their suits on. And here's the panel that's built upside down.
Oh.
And over here also, their feet are generally up there. And the spacesuits are attached to the bulkhead here on either side. When we're not doing the spacewalks and we're transferring equipment and people to the space station, that's the hats that we go into the space station with. Yeah.
It's so strange to think that it all happens in such small spaces.
Right.
The greetings, the goodbyes, they all take place in this little cylinder right here.
Yeah.
And so if someone were to keep going and go out to the payload, they'd have to have a spacesuit on.
Right. On our flight, we will have 3 spacewalks. 4 different crew members will do a total of 3 spacewalks. And they take equipment out of our payload bay and attach it to the space station. It really is construction work, and we'll see some of the mock-ups later on how tall it really is. And if you ever were afraid of heights, that's where you would sense it when you take that first step out into outer space.
Nothing.
There's no floor, and you see the Earth 200 miles below you. And some astronauts have to take a deep breath when they first take that big step. It really, you get a sense that you're falling. But just a tremendous view. And
oh, I can't even imagine. And they have a motorized backpack on?
Right. We always will, on the space station, stay tethered so that we don't float freely. But if something happens, if the tether broke or they inadvertently got disconnected, they do have a backpack that they can jet back to the Space Shuttle to get rescued, because I can't separate from the space station for about 20 minutes. And so it would be very difficult to go retrieve them if they got inadvertently untethered. Are
your nerves on edge when you have a crew member out there working? Just hanging by a tether?
There are a few times that space flight is emotional. We can't afford the luxury of being emotional, but that's one of those times when they come back in after a spacewalk and they're all excited and happy.
Okay. Do you think shuttles will always be the mode of transportation for components up into space?
There are a lot of discussions about that right now going on. If you really think about it, and I don't think I'm a shuttle lover by any means. I would love to have an advanced vehicle that was capable of doing even more than the shuttle. But if you really think about it, the technology is tremendously complicated, and there's no other vehicle in the world that can do what the shuttle does with all those moving parts, and to be able to move hundreds of tons up into space and do it reliably and relatively safely. It's not extremely safe by any means. It's not an airliner. There are risks involved. So I think we're going to be flying it well into 2025.
Just keep updating it.
Yeah, right.
What would your dream mission be?
At this point in my career, I'd love to go to the moon. I don't think I would like to go to Mars. It would be about a 2-year trip, and I have a wife whom I love very much, and I don't think I want to leave for 2 years. But I would love to go to the moon and practice with the equipment that they're going to take to Mars and do like a test flight.
I have faith you can do it, Jim.
Well,
I hope you're the next guy standing on the moon.
I hope so.
All right, here's looking into the future, 2005.
That's right.
the end product right there,
That's
huh?
right. Actually, the near future, this is what it'll look like in the end when we have all the different modules and laboratories attached to it. The relative size of the Space Shuttle as we use it as a truck, the way it was designed to get all the equipment up there and the people. And we'll be living and working there for the next several decades.
What a fascinating vision to go into space and to see this beautiful sight right there.
That would be great. I can't wait to see it for real.
We really are living in the space age, aren't we?
Yeah, this is great. This is the future already.
Well, I can't help but be excited about the program thanks to you. And thank you for this fascinating tour and all your hard work and for our flight. We did good.
Okay, we did, yes.
Thanks,
yes.
Jim. Okay.
I hope you're watching in February.
I'd love to be there.
Okay,
Thank you for
great.
the invite. We'll be there, definitely.
Great.
Okay, and we'll be right back.